Since the Malt project began, we've wanted to visit a region we'll loosely define as the coastal and island distilleries. And now we have. On volumes 1 and 2, we've previously covered Islay Malts and Jura, and you'll find Talisker on volume 3. The majority of working distilleries find their homes in the Speyside area, some 40 or 50, and no one will question that an Islay malt is out there by itself. But overall, the islands and the coastal areas of Scotland lend some very unique qualities to their whiskies. We think you'll find each of these distilleries on Volume 6 something truly special. To set the scene, we felt it was a great opportunity to talk to some of the experts and see if they shared our opinions.
The variety of whiskey in Islay at different age statements and from different distilleries is such that to simplify it as just peaty whiskey comes from Islay is wrong. And I think that the interesting thing is people are getting that story, and I happen to be drinking at home Brookladdy and Bunnahabhain quite a lot at the moment. I come from a peaty, love of a peaty whiskey background, but I'm finding that I'm really starting to appreciate Bunnahabhain, who've just put out 2 fantastic new expressions, an 18 and 25-year-old, and the Brookladdy, some of the stuff that's coming out of there is just fantastic. I think the story is people are getting more complex, and then apply that across the islands. It is not true that an island whiskey has to have a kind of a peaty, outrageous quality. It doesn't. You know, I mean, there are Arran's producing some very interesting whiskey. Very young, I know it's only 10 years old, but already it's very creamy, very lush, and it's developing its own characteristics that have much more in common with something in Speyside or Belvenny than it ever does with Islay. And Tobermory, Oban on the mainland, Campbelltown, and Scapa has a great future as a whiskey. It's coming into its own under its new ownership with Chivas.
Springbank is highly praised and well received worldwide, but it's a spirit that can sometimes be hard to find. And because its home is in Campbelltown, on the Mall of Kintyre, it's hard to get to for most visitors.
Well, the Campbelltown, really, the whisky distilling industry first started in Campbelltown in the mid-1800s. Mid-1800s, there were 34 distilleries here. One of the main reasons was, at that time in Scotland, there was no real road system as such, so everything moved by sea. Now, Campbelltown is situated on a sea loch, very sheltered, so ships could come in, bringing in the raw materials, take away the finished products. So we have 3 stills here. Now, we employ a very peculiar form of distillation for our Springbank, which involves us describing as 2.5 distillation. So we get our wash, which we distill, and the wash produces a liquid called low wines. Now, low wines on average are about 14% alcohol when they're all collected in the one receiver. We then take our low wines, distill them in the second still, and the total of that distillate we produce is called faints. For the third still, we take a mixture which comprises of 80% faints, 20% low wines, and from that distillation we take spirit from the middle cut. And because of this mixture, we call it this extra half distillation. So actually in the third still, some of the actual liquid is triple distilled and some is double distilled.
Even today, if you drive from Glasgow to Campbelltown, it looks pretty straightforward. It looks a short drive, and it takes you about 3 hours. The roads are a nightmare. It's still a very, very remote place, is Campbelltown. And in the days of illicit distilling, with virtually no roads, it was even more remote. And so from an illicit distilling point of view, you know, it was a great place to be. You had local barley, you had peat, you had all the right things in place to make it happen.
Well, the first one we done was the peating level was 80 parts per million, 80 ppm. I've now increased that up to 160. I've doubled it. So this one's at 80 ppm, and it's now 3 years old. The whisky should be starting to pick up the sweetness of the vanilla now. And this was filled into the barrel at 71.5%. So it would come down about 2.5%. So it's probably sitting just now about 69. So this should be rock and roll. This will get rid of your cold, Jackie. Jackie boy, this will sort you out. Well, it's something that we have made. This has never been made before.
Right. That's right.
You understand? And this is the moment a new whisky is born, when it's 3 years old. So this is 3 years old. And it's fantastic. The smoke at 80 parts, it smells even more than 80.
Well, it goes back about 10 years when I was involved in my own independent single cask bottling business and saw the potential for premium unique bottlings of single malts, individual casks, and having been coming to Islay for 22, 23 years, my wife's family had a place over here. This is the ideal place to get my dream underway and to start a farm distillery. Mark French, the French were good friends of mine. They had the buildings here. He grew barley and good quality malting barley. So that's how the project started in 2001, and it's taken until now to fulfill that dream. And we're underway now, and it's all looking really good.
It's the largest selling Diageo single malt in America.
Oban has a traditional mash tun, which means we have rakes inside the mash tun, and these rakes turn around like someone doing freestyle swimming. Shall we taste this now with the water? Yeah.
Definitely opening up.
And it's very silky now. Yeah. Saltiness is still there, and you get more citrus flavours building there, yeah. But it's quite complex, yeah. It's changing all the time.
Where is the island character in a whiskey? If you take Islay whiskies, for instance, for many people, the Islay character would be peat, smoke, and also the iodine, seaweed, and all. And of course, some of the distilleries don't have this characteristic. And I've heard some people saying, I wouldn't say which country they came from, some Anaraks saying that any whiskey starting with a B on Islay is not an Islay whiskey, which I find really insulting, because these B, Bruichladdich, Bunnahabhain and Bowmore are really, for me, typical Islay whiskey.
The Highland Park Distillery is classic. It's traditional in all respects, and along with that tradition have come many prestigious awards as a top single malt. Sampling Highland Park with manager Russell Anderson was exciting and insightful.
Well, we'll do left from right, and we'll start off with the new mixed spirit. Now, this is new mixed spirit direct from the still. And as you see, there's no colour there. There's no maturation influence in the new mixed spirit. There's never been near wood. Straight off the still. This was produced there last week.